the girls of hip hop, Missy Elliott.
So I too am the beneficiary of affirmative action, but it does not mean that I was not. Oh, here you go again. I thought we left that potato salad back in the last episode.
For Memorial.
What you say? What you talking about, Willis?
Okay.
This is the All Rev'd Up podcast, season 7, episode 8. I'm Reverend Emmett Price.
And I'm Reverend Irene Monroe.
Before we jump into our conversation on Black folk and line dancing, let us thank each of our listeners and viewers. This 7th season is the direct result of your support, encouragement, and comments. Thank you for listening to us on the various podcast apps and for watching the actual live recording of the podcast on our YouTube channel. We are grateful for your support, your encouragement, your feedback, your reviews, and your comments. Thank you so much for sharing the podcast with others.
And a tsunami of thanks to our loyal listeners and a hearty welcome to our new ones. And we couldn't be what we are without the creative genius of our producers, Kyla Wright and Cavante Smalls.
Absolutely. Now, Irene, do you have allergies? Because my allergies are kicking my butt this season. And ever since the beginning of COVID, I wake up and just waste COVID tests, wondering if I have COVID, even though I know they're allergies. What about you?
I'm miserable. Listen, my eyes itch, my throat tickles. I walk around with a snot rag. I'm a pathetic sight.
Oh, my goodness. To our dear listeners, I hope that you are managing your allergies as well in this season.
I know, Sabrina, you didn't want me to do the electric slide, but I can do the Cupid Shuffle. Y'all want to help me do the Cupid Shuffle? Come on, Sabrina, please. Can we do the Cupid Shuffle? Come on, I know how to do the Cupid Shuffle. Come on, let's do it. Come on, hand them in
From the hustle to the wobble, from the electric slide to the Cupid Shuffle, Black folks have been creating some of the most artistic, creative, and fun line dances that build community and reinforce the idea that we are family. These dancers are always open invitations, and they go on long enough for the novice to jump in and learn the moves while adding a little personal character, all while the song plays on and on and on. In recent years, with the rise of social media, especially TikTok, new dances are popping up everywhere, most often created by young Black teens and 20-somethings, revealing not only the passing of the baton, but the absolute desire to have fun, celebrate, and enjoy one another, even in the midst of some of the most challenging times our generations have ever experienced. Irene, as soon as we leave here, as soon as we finish recording this episode, I am headed to a cookout and I'm going to get my groove on. Do you get down to any of these dances?
Do I? I love them. Listen, people need to know this year. They had parties, picnics, weddings, cookouts, barbecue, any holiday like Juneteenth. July 4th is coming up. I'll be grooving and doing my Cupid Shuffle here. And if folks don't know what we're talking about, I have to even tell you this here. Wherever we gather, I was at Art Emerson fundraiser. We did the Cuban Shuffle here. But folks who don't have an idea what it might look like, Michael Jackson's Michael Jackson's Thriller. That's a line dance.
Yeah.
Beyonce. Come on, formation, where she says, okay, ladies, okay, now let's get in formation here. And then I'm going to go old school. Okay, Emmett, this is for you. This is a test. Do you know where you find those line dancers?
Where? Talk to me.
Okay, listen, I'm going to give you another one. 5 brothers here. And yes, the Jackson 5, but I'm talking about some other brothers.
You going back to the Temptations. You Motown all the way. I know what you're doing.
There you go. Absolutely. Because it's like you said, it's an integral part of Black community. It's intergenerational. It has its signature style here. I have that Brooklyn kind of shuffle going on. I don't know what you got, my young brother, but I definitely got. And people got to know that, this is a dance that goes way back. way back to slavery. It was the way
Mhm.
of really showing resistance to slavery. It was a commentary, on on society in the past and as well as the present. It was to combat, stereotypes and power
Mhm.
dances and some of the things that people. Well, even before that, let me tell you when Black Line Dance got a new name. 1971. Listen, you weren't born. Our producer Kyla Wright and Cavante
You were so
Small.
ageist. You were so ageist.
But 1971, we revolutionized Black dance because it became the Soul Train line. And that was a
Mm.
show, American, musical show that came out, and was created by Don Cornelius. And let me just say this, since I'm old school here. It was the Black American Bandstand. Dick Clark wanted to buy it from him, and then he tried to steal it from him because it
Yeah.
was so popular. But it was a
Yeah.
style of really moving away from the Western and Eurocentric style of movement. And what I like about it, it addresses generational trauma. And we got to remember this, even today here, we wasn't always allowed to move in open space here. So these
Mhm.
are Black bodies moving in unison. It's like it's a different kind of congregation. It's a different kind of really having church without having church.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you did a historical synopsis because we can go back to the time of enslaved. Even here in the United States, there's a place down in New Orleans called Congo Square, formerly known as Place
Yes.
del Congo. And there, the enslaved were able to gather on Sundays. And one of the things that they did was they made traditional music from their indigenous areas. And certainly they were not all from the same place. But the confluence of those rhythms and harmonies allowed them to gather in social dancing. And
Hmm.
this is where they dance with their backs strong and straight, with their necks upright and up long. And then they would also do a lot of hip movement. And they would
Hmm.
get down and they would kind of groove and what we now know as grind. And it was not necessarily a hypersexual thing as it's turned into in terms of postmodern times, but it was a sign of vitality. It was a sign of strength and power. And so that goes even back to the African continent with what we know as the ring shout, which
There
is
you
a
go.
counterclockwise,
That's
dance
right.
that was again a social dance. And so just so that our listeners know, this is totally different than the hokey pokey, right?
That's
This
right.
ain't you put your left foot in and you put your left foot out and you put your left foot in and you shake
And
it
shake
all
it
about.
all about.
We not talking about that. And we're not talking about some of the, country and Western line dances that you see, although many of those, I should say, are created by Black folks as well, because many of the early cowboys and many
Yeah,
of the folks who participated in that
brought that.
agrarian culture of that day were Black folks, despite what you see in the Westerns and despite what you see on
But
television documentaries.
But what you got to say here about country line dancing and Black line dancing, the difference really is in the footwork, the
Yes.
musicality, the beat. It's about, and also it's telling a story. See, that's another
Mhm.
thing. Again, weren't allowed to speak, but so it's about Black life, Black faith, Black transcendence, and Black resistance here. And so, absolutely, Emmett. Certainly a lot of the cowboys, and some will say some of the original cowboys were Black. So of course you're going to bring that. And then the ring dance. I just want to say that it that was practiced. Oh my God, that goes all the way back to the 1500s. That was brought
Mhm.
over when those first ships came,
Mhm.
and then we begin to see this, and people really, don't realize how those what we call slave retentions really maintain themselves. Because what happened was is that there was the ring shout, but then it was also a form of rebellion, and it was the Stono Rebellion. And then
Yeah.
and then what they did, that was 1739. And that was a distinctive kind of percussive style here. And what they did was, because of the banging of the drums and the marching down the streets, they put a band on
That's right.
drums. But that didn't stop us. We stomped our feet. We
Yeah.
beat our chests. We clapped our hands. And then we see it as it permeates, certainly in the Harlem Renaissance. We get it. So the wobble really is a tribute to Duke Ellington. But then we see it historically. HBCUs. Come on, Emmett. Stepping.
Look at you. Look at you.
Stepping.
Our producers telling us we need to take a break. So I'm just gonna sign off for this segment and say this is Black History with Auntie Reverend Irene Monroe. This is the All Rev'd Up podcast, and we'll be right back. This is the All Rev'd Up podcast, and we're back. You just experienced Beyonce in formation with the sisters, the halftime show from Super Bowl 50 in 2016. And the first clip that you heard at the very beginning was the TriStar Pictures jumping the broom at the very conclusion, when at the end of the wedding reception, they broke out into the Cupid Shuffle. That was 2011. Irene, talk about Beyonce, talk about the halftime show, talk about line dancing, talk about something, because we know you can run your mouth.
Well, listen. Oh, she shocked the world when she came out with Formation. People thought the revolution, when we always say, would not be televised. They didn't know it would be halftime at the Super Bowl. Oh my God, people, and I need to say certain people, because we understood it. The Formation, actually, it looked like an HBCU coming out, stepping. You know, I so enjoyed that moment. She brought all the African retentions around step dancing, the percussion, the foot movements, the clapping, all of what we do. At one point, Emmett, I thought she was going to go counterclockwise with the Formation. And then I was going to say that would be a modern day shout, ring shout. It was phenomenal. It was absolutely a phenomenal moment here. I mean, listen, the swift movements, the leaps, it was breathtaking. And not to say, the girls were fierce.
Oh, they killed it. They killed it. I mean, remind me, you invoked the HBCUs early in the first segment, but it reminded me of the Black Greeks, right? The fraternities and sororities that come out of the Black tradition, with the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated being the number one, numero uno in the first. And the way that we step and the way that we stroll around is really about that gathering of unification and unity with the opportunity to have your personal style, right? So it's about unity without uniformity.
That's right.
Everybody brings their own personal style to it. And this is something that is inherent to our Black experience creatively, in terms of communally, culturally. So let me go to the church just for a second, because there is a distinction in terms of how we do social dances in the church. When people shout in the church, the distinction between shouting and quote unquote dancing, it goes back to the African tradition that when we shout, we don't necessarily lift our whole foot, right? So it's kind of a slide rather than a step. And so even in the church, when we shout, folks still kind of come around and join in with their own personal flair, personal style. And so there's a sense of community, sense of being in, alignment, allegiance, being together. And what Beyonce says, being in formation. That's so.
Well, listen, Emmett. So now let me talk about my church, because I'm Baptist Costal. Okay. I'm that holy roly church, that church that they talk about and Go Tell It on the Mountain, James Baldwin. James Baldwin church. No. See, now the difference between Saturday and Sunday. Saturday folks move their hips, they sway left and right. Church folks jump up and down.
Up and down.
Up and down. Okay, we up and down. But let me tell you this about Formation. I learned that. See, since I couldn't sing, I got in Formation. Join the usher board. We march in, the choir march in.
That's old school. That's old school church.
That's right. That is and the way we march in. See, that's what people got to know. We don't walk in we march in. So I knew then, that there again, we see even in some of those high solidity Black church like yours, you still got some of your slave retentions in terms of keeping our line formation in pristine integrity.
I love your reflection on the traditional Black church, particularly of the 60s and 70s and into the 80s. My grandmother was an usher. I was about to say usher.
That's right.
And she was on the usher board, and every week that they were on duty, because of course they watched the door and they were the greeters and the hospitality force, they had a different strut when it came down to the offering time. because they would strut from the back of the church, and they come up with a different line dance. In essence, let me just tell the
That's
truth
right.
and shame the
Mhm.
devil. They would come up with different line dance, and they would, like 3 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back, right till they got off
That's
to the
right.
front of the church. And once they did that and blessed the basket that was going to receive the offering, then they went up and down the lines and passed the plate across. And so as children, we would love to see what they was going to come up with this Sunday. And it was always something they never repeated. They never repeated. So again, back to the tradition, whether it's in the church, outside the church, we as Black folks, we understand the power of holding on to our joy, letting our resilience and our love and our respect for each other to always
Yeah.
be shown in the most creative, dynamic, fun, and I would even say respectful ways.
Yeah, but it always too, it's always highlighting when what we got to realize, sort of our connection not only to the motherland but to our God. That's
Yes.
something that people got to understand, because during slavery here again we were very restricted. We were supposed to dance for white people. See, that was the whole
Yes.
idea.
Yes.
And they were
Yeah.
amazed by such musicality. And what I mean by musicality is that we found music even with restriction of the drum. When you look at the Caribbean country like Trinidad and Tobago, you take out
Mhm.
drum, we got some steel drums, we'll make some can.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the way in which we kept, as what one would say, we kept the beat, we kept
Yeah.
on going. And I think that what we missed that out of that dance here, it's a kind of, in many ways, it's a liturgical dance.
Mm.
It's public as well as sacred, and that is not to confuse the liturgical dances that we see in many churches, even Black churches as well as your church, your high church, Emmett, but yeah, high Black church here and
Oh my
stuff.
goodness.
But it is a liturgical dance. It's also rooted in the things that are important to us: the earth, our God, and our motherland and family. And what I've
Yeah.
always liked about it with these line dances, my goodness. Generational. You see folks that are, listen,
Yeah.
we see our grandfolks, okay, who will be sitting in their rocker or sitting in a chair with their cane. You say like formation, like the way Beyonce said, we get on up.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that intergenerational piece is so important because it is connectivity. And it also helps us to understand how we pass on tradition and
Yeah.
how we pass on this mutual respect and this mutual sense of belonging within Black community, which is not homogenous, which is not monolithic, right? So we have people from all over the diaspora who come together, but they can feel the presence of something special, the energy, the vibe, as the young people
Hmm.
say, and
That's
they
right.
jump in and they participate.
Yeah.
This has been a fun episode, Irene. You have a final word? Give it to us.
All righty here. Okay. I'm calling it the language of dance. In the rhythm of life, there is a universal language that transcends words, unite people from all walks of life, and that is the language of dance. Dance is a natural, primary expression of every human being. It is founded in the beat of our hearts, the rhythm of our breath, and in the pattern of our footsteps. It is the manifestation as the inexplicable desire to turn a walk into a dance shown by the way our feet touch the ground or run into a leap. Dance is an integral part of moving the body to stir the soul. Dance as prayer is how I connect with the divine and cultivate space within myself, reminding me that we are all created for joy. Dance untangles my feet and free my mind from the yoke of oppression. It frees my soul, but it also lifts me up and allows me to lift up others. Dance amplifies my gratitude in having the space to breathe and move. Dancing is an energy, a life force that can heal and nurture. Dancing with others create a sense of community and shared joy. Life is short, and in a world filled with distraction, dance can allow us to live in the moment. May you find joy in the dance that is your life. Ashe
Ashe.
and amen.
Amen. All Rev'd Up is brought to you by us, the Revs. Our amazing producers are Kyla Wright and Cavante Smalls.
Music for this episode is from Reverend Price's son and musical prodigy, Emmett G. Price IV. All Rev'd Up is distributed by GBH.
Additional thanks to Bob Kempf, Elizabeth O'Brien, May He, Devin Robbins, Meredith Neerman, and Zach Waldman.
If you like what you hear, let us know. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts and follow us at All Rev'd Up Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
Feel free to send us a note, a question, or a comment to allrevduppod@gmail.com. We'll be back